Welcome to the Podcast Without Fear, a podcast all about Netflix's first foray into the superhero genre. That's right, we're talking Daredevil, people. I am your host, Zachary Hare, and with me, of course, is Jesse Jackson. No, not that one.
Hello, Zach. We have a great episode to talk about.
Oh, we have an interesting one. Shadows, an interesting name, too. Shadows in the Glass.
There is so much coolness in this. I am just all giddy with the chance to talk about it.
Yes. So we see, and now see the more, and this episode, in my opinion, because when I first, as much as I'm a fan of Vincent D'Onofrio, when I very first heard he was going to be Kingpin, my first reaction was, really? Because as much as because it's the reaction a lot of us have for various comic book characters, because Kingpin, has always been a good villain. And so when I first heard Vincent, I'm like, can he do that? But then I see where they're going with this Kingpin. And now that I see that, Vincent is the perfect choice.
Yeah, I totally agree. We get this, structure, the way they did it. Stephen DeKnight, who is the showrunner of Daredevil, wrote this one. And it, I'm a big fan of his from his work back with Joss Whedon, and I especially love Spartacus. He did a great job of that. I can't recommend Spartacus enough. So my expectations were pretty high. And then when we figure out that it's going to be Fisk's backstory, his quote-unquote secret origin, I peed in my pants a little. There, I admit it. But luckily, I went, changed, and got back and watched it immediately. Am I oversharing?
Just a tad, Jesse. Just a tad.
Very good.
So we see here that Fisk has his own morning ritual, and I'm just gonna say in my sharing that egg looks delicious.
It does look delicious, and one of the things that my wife talks about is she gets a kick out of, like, when she's out of town doing a triathlon or a girls trip, that I will cook for myself. And, she's like, I never cook for myself. If it's not going to be more than one of us, I go out. And so it's kind of, there's something kind of cool about, him sitting there, and he wakes up with a bad dream always. He looks at the painting.
And he stares at the painting, and we find out why a little later.
What a great payoff,
Yes.
And
I know, because we were all like, what is with the painting?
And it is such a great payoff, and he makes himself breakfast, and he just doesn't, like, I usually will make myself, like, toast, or I've been trying to lose a little weight, and so I've been making myself a bowl of oatmeal every morning. But, I make the oatmeal and then sit in front of the computer eating it while I'm checking email, right? Kind of double tasking. I do not sit at my townhome, not that I have a townhome, but, where you actually chop up chives, the green onions, and he sprinkles it on there, and, the beautiful layout of the city. He has a ritual, doesn't he?
Definitely. And we see that we get those cufflinks that we always see him fiddle with. Another great payoff later in the episode. So his morning ritual's the same every morning.
And he actually, at least for me, and I may be overthinking this, but it actually to me looks like every day he goes, I'm going to pick something different. He goes.
Yes, I know. Okay, I got that too.
Picks the same suit. Goes through, picks the same shirt.
Well, we've all done that. We've all been like, what am I going to do today? Yeah, same thing I do every day.
And then, all these beautiful cufflinks, and he picks the same pair every time. And once again, with beautiful writing, we get a payoff to that morning ritual.
Yeah. Oh, and we cannot forget, we must make mention of how the scene ends with the bloody reflection.
Yes.
Now, first we think it's something like past memory or guilt, but it's more than that, because now we see, because the reflection's moving with him, that it is him.
Yes. Yeah, and it is, I don't want to get too techie psychobabble, right? But we have an image of ourselves. And, a lot of times our body image of ourselves is not reality. You hear stories all the time about, beautiful women or handsome men that when they look at themselves in the mirror, they just see the flaws and they don't recognize that we would go, wow, he's really handsome. And he just goes, oh no, look, my nose is too wide or my hairline's receding. He just sees the flaws. And so Wilson just sees the little bitty young, Wilson Fisk with blood on him, and we don't know what's happened, but we know something traumatic.
Yeah. So from there we go to the offices of Nelson and Murdoch, and we see that now I like this because I've always hated in shows like this when there's a secret or something like this going on, when they're talking just anywhere about what's going on, and big surprise, someone overhears them. And of course Matt would have heard him anyways, but now they have to bring Matt in on it.
Yeah, and I love Foggy, keep you off the witness stand, like because she just right away is giving it off, right?
And of course the real reason Matt probably wants to keep him off because he wants to look into himself and his other persona. Mm-hmm. That's the real reason he's telling them. But he's got to. It'll be interesting to watch him handle both sides because now he's got to handle as Matt Murdock and as the Man in the Mask.
Yeah, it does. It's very interesting.
We get another scene where Nobu's confronting him about what happened last episode, and he's all mad at Fizz, like, oh, you didn't ask me to, but still, even in his eyes, Wilson looks weak because of it.
Yeah, and I want to go back just one moment to I made the note of Matt, a little bit of humor show. I love when they throw in realistic humor. First rule, no more skulking around. And what's second rule? I don't know. I'm making this up as I go. Wilson is being boxed in. The devil of the Hell's Kitchen's devil is giving him problems, and people are thinking that he's kind of lost it. We get that in a lot of different ways, and it is interesting to see the pressure and how it's building on him and how it's building to him.
And also we get this little from the scene of with Nobu, we get a little flashback into Fisk's life. And now we see that the boy is indeed him, and that his father, big surprise, is a jerk. I don't think very few, unless the villain's a sociopath, very rarely is the father a nice guy.
No, and that actor is a wonderful, character actor. He's been in a lot of different things. He always kind of plays a lovable loser. He was wonderful in Entourage. Right, I think that was one of the roles. He's done some other stuff.
He was in a decent A&E show, Breakout.
Yes,
thing.
And so really good guy, and he's just great casting because exactly this is not going to work well. He isn't going to do things. This is a bad idea when he's talking about, oh, don't worry about it. I borrowed from the loan shark, but once I'm elected, we'll be in money. And you're just like, God, what is wrong with this plan?
And then we see back in the present, we see Wilson talking on the phone to someone, and it turns out to be Vanessa. And I love how he hates to have to not hang up on or just tell her goodbye.
Yes, he very very nice scene. Even though you're just looking at him, and he's okay. What do we got to do now? And I continue to be really happy with Fisk's, second in command. James Wesley is just awesome, and I love the loyalty he's showing, the how smart he seems to be, and he continues to impress me. And he did this episode too with trying to be there for his boss.
Right. And so we'll find out that the cop is alive, and now they have to figure out a way to deal with it. They can't, because of how it's being handled. They can't just go in and kill him. It would be way too noticeable.
Yeah, and they talked about he's under guard. None of their people are there except a couple, and they explain, and there would be no way to explain why they had to see him. And so they say, well, let's bring in his partner. And, James is like, okay, but this is really, they've been tough. They've been friends for a long time. And he says, bring him to me. I'll talk to him myself. And that scares me a little, right? You're like, holy crap. And, but he's just very logical, right? When he sits down with Detective Hoffman, he just kind of explains it all out.
Well, I think something happened is because we actually learned, and in his own way, he's fair too. He's like, listen, he didn't want to give up the information that the guy broke. He's like, listen, I'm not mad at him for that.
Yeah.
I can understand getting a beat down might make you talky. I'm mad he didn't tell us about it right after, so we could have prepared for it.
And then so cold discussion of, I hear that. How much are those years worth in round figures?
That was a great line. That was a great villain line.
Yes. And it reminds me of the old joke, right, where a man says to a woman, would you sleep with me for $1 million? And she says yes. And he says, would you sleep with me for $10? Well, no. What kind of person do you think I am? Well, we've already established that. Now we're haggling over price.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
So this is it, right? We've already established you're dirty. And now then, and I realize you're more loyal. And the other thing is, and I'm not going to defend the detective too much, but, talk about make an offer he can't refuse. Detective Hoffman, if he doesn't play ball, things may not work well for him either.
Yeah, but at the same time, he doesn't fight too hard for his
No, he doesn't. Fair enough. I agree.
Now, something I definitely want to talk about here, when he goes in to obviously kill his friend. Oh, and I love when he wakes up. Like, he has to watch his friend. Now, did Daredevil just not get there at the right moment, or did he actually let that happen?
I think he came in a little bit late. I don't think he did it. Excuse me. I really loved the idea of sneaking in the hypodermic needle in the meatball sub.
What a waste of
a
good
I thought
sub.
that too. Like, oh man. But very cool that they're doing that. Yes.
Now, of course, Daredevil knocks him out. He lets him know what's going on, and so he gave up something, and we don't know what yet, but he definitely gave up something to Daredevil. And now, but the problem is now they think that Daredevil did it.
Yes, and they actually talk about this. Hoffman was actually able to spin it around, saying, I was visiting my dear friend, bringing him a sub, and oh, look what happened. Daredevil, this devil killed him. So that was awesome.
And then we get this kind of a weird scene where apparently Leland is getting a special suit made. I'm guessing it's a version of body armor.
Yeah.
Curious to see if that's going to become relevant.
Yeah, like a bulletproof, suit. And, he's like, this is all right. And then gives his size, I just love Leland. He's just so, I just want to manipulate money and, stay above all this. But no, not going to happen for him.
And then he pretty much threatens Wilson, which I can't wait to see things blow up in this guy's face, because it's going to. Guy like this, something's going to happen to him.
Yeah, and that's, so as we talked about, Wilson's not having a good day. He is losing his grip, and curious to see, you at this point you're going, man, nothing is working out.
Yeah, and then if we get another flashback where his father, the upstanding citizen he is, brings in someone that bullied his son, gets him with a bat, and then incites his son to repeatedly kick him, even though that the guy's already down.
Yeah,
Nice guy.
yeah, not a, and Wilson's kind of stuck, right, between what his mom is wanting, what his dad is pushing him, and it's really, I feel for the kid, and I think we've all been there where our parents make us do something we don't want to do, and we're embarrassed about that, whether it's apologize to a neighbor, return the gum you took, or whatever this is. And so Papa Fist just thinks he's doing what's right to make sure he makes to that he's making sure his son grows up to be strong.
Yes, and it's just it's probably a good insight into why Fisk doesn't want to be seen as a brute. He wants to avoid bloodshed if he can, because he doesn't want to. It's obvious he just doesn't want to be his father.
Yes, he does not at all.
Now we get an important scene in my opinion, because next again we see his ritual, but then we see that Madame Gao is coming to it. Now the fact that she even knows where he lives and she makes mention of that, and now we find out, not too much of a surprise. I like how Gao figured out that Wilson can pretty much speak every language Wesley's been translating for him.
Yeah, and she calls him out, after they get their tea, and then they excuse, right? They say, we can talk alone. And James like, okay, I guess. Very, very interesting, that discussion. And so now you've got the third person saying, you're just not taking care of business.
But this one's a little different, because while she says, you've shown me respect, so I'm going to, like a friend would, in a way.
Yeah.
She's not really a friend, but she's saying, listen, you've shown me respect, so I'm going to tell you, you're acting like an idiot.
Yes.
Like, you would never, when you were strong, I would never be able to find out where you lived. And I like how she says, you play the fool, but I could tell that you could really speak the language, and does Nobu know you could speak his?
Yeah.
Like she's telling him, you need to get your house in order, or like she's saying, or I'll move on to something. I'll start working on my own.
Yeah, and and I think you're really right. Like, she respects him. She knows he should be good at what he does, and let's get your head in the game. Basically, right? Take care of your house, as she puts it. Get your head in the game, and let's just knock this out.
Yeah, and then we see like. Wilson, in a fit of anger, flips the table, and that thing looks like it's marble. So.
Yes.
Now, I think this is what happens with Wesley is very relevant, because he definitely sees himself as Wilson's friend.
Yes, he does, and he's concerned about his boss and his friend, and his friends, he's like, I don't want that. I want you to go away, and and he's like, well, I guess I have to. It was a really well done scene.
I'm curious to see if we're going to get a backstory on him.
I would like that. I would think it probably wouldn't, because he works the way he is, without knowing. But I agree.
Well, I don't mean like a huge one like this. I mean, like, even if it's just him saying, I joined him because of this. Even something as simple as that, I would like to hear a little more, because you don't just join a man like Kingpin. You don't just become and you might work for him, but he's his number two.
Yeah, how do you get him to trust you that much, right? And how do you get? Yes, I agree. I would love to see it. I just don't know if we're going to.
I think this scene right here is what shows how much he's Wesley's not just a employee, because he brings Vanessa over. Anyone else Fisk would have killed instantly just for that.
Yeah, and she tells him, go away, we're fine. And,
yep.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, he says, I want you to leave, and she's like, is that what you really like? She doesn't, and I love that. She shows she's just as strong as he is.
Yes. She is, and it was really good that he's honest with her, and she accepts him. In fact, she actually says, you were just protecting your mom. You shouldn't feel guilty. Just awesome. There's great chemistry between these two. She is gorgeous, and she shows so much intelligence and beauty. It's so cool.
And we learned he wasn't protecting. He says, I wasn't protecting her. I wanted to kill him because I wanted to kill him. And then we see that the painting, he got it because it reminds him of his wall at home. Yeah. Something that would use to calm himself.
Yeah,
with.
Because, and his father would punish him by, stare at that wall. And so, really great payoff to the why he likes the painting so much.
And then we find out what the cuff was.
Yes, we do. And it's just really, really nice. I also loved, as we were moving forward, the scene in the rain where we finally get, Urich meeting, Matt in his alternate ego, right? And that's a nice, the interaction of kind of the rain and the going and the talking forth. That was another good scene.
Well, one more thing, because we also see that, the scene where Wilson as a kid killed his father, which is and then his mother cuts up the body.
Yes.
And they dump the body over the course of a few days. I mean, I'm curious to see if she'll pop up in the show, but
yeah, that's kind of creepy, right? They just keep it, and so, which it does make sense, that everyone knew he owed money. Everyone knew that he may not have been able to pay the bookie. So there was a lot of, that makes a lot of sense on how they were able to do this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but then she still accepts him. She's still standing with him.
Yes.
Because she sees what he's trying to do. But like you said, next we get the scene in the rain, and I do like this where he's now. It's almost, I don't want to say parody, but we get this scene a lot in comic books where the guy says, "Listen, here's everything. This guy's the villain. This who's behind everything.
Yes.
Expose him." And he's like, "All right." He's like, "I don't know if I trust you, but I'm going to look into it." And then the next scene, which I think is also important, we see that Wilson and Vanessa spent the night together, and he just, instead of getting up, he just cuddles her, and then they share the morning ritual, which I think this scene is great. Although, was anyone else hoping that she was going to reach in and pull out just the one white suit?
Yes. I thought it was great that, he wakes up afraid, but she's there. And then, he has the sour face that he always has when he's sitting to eat, and then she comes and she's in a robe as well, and she's caressing him, and she's taking the chives and she's putting on, she's just full of energy and happiness. And a light suit instead of the dark one, different cufflinks.
And his reflection.
Yes. Is so much better. And then we get a press conference.
Well, first, during all that scene, we get Ben. Ben is fully ready to expose him.
Yes.
As the Kingpin, because he wants no one to know his name. But then Vanessa makes Wilson realize it's better if he is in the light while he's trying to do this other stuff. So Ben's just like, "Oh, you kidding me?" I wonder if Ben doesn't believe him as much now, Ben Urich,
Well, I think he believes him. It's just, it's too late. There's nothing, there is no magic in not saying his name, because he's gone out there and said, "Hey, everyone, I'm there. I'm here. I can't hide anymore." So you're kind of in stuck, right?
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they're going to go with, because that's just like in the comics. Kingpin was in his open face, public face, with the pillar of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he just says because now Matt knew, and Ben, I'm sure, thinks it too, is that their best weapon against him was that. The
Yes.
fact that he was in the shadows, and if they just exposed his name, they'd be like, okay, he's all right. But now there's nothing. Well, I mean, maybe they'd have to. Now they got to work even harder to expose him.
Yes, you do. And that was, a great scene of, do you want to delete this file without saving? Yes, I do. Yeah.
All right, so that pretty much wraps up the episode. What did you think of it?
Okay, I'm saying 10 shiny cufflinks. This was just practically it is the Mary Poppins of Daredevil episodes, practically perfect in every way. I loved this episode, so I give it 10 shiny cufflinks.
All right, I enjoyed it as well. I mean, it really shows me that they're going a unique path with Kingpin, which I love. They're doing their own path. They realize they don't have to make it exactly like the comics, which I'm fine with because they're doing good with it. So the story that they're building it intrigues me more and more. I can't wait to see where they go with it.
I totally agree, Zach. It is a little bit Lex Luthor, a little bit, Kingpin from the source. We have talked about this before. I love that our main romance is not our hero; it's our villain and his finding his soulmate. And I find myself pulling for these two, even though he's the bad guy. So just absolutely wonderful. And we still have quite a few episodes to go. So that is going to be great. So hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. We'd love to get some feedback on what you're thinking of it, and send us some information. How can they reach you, Zach?
Well, they can always find me on Facebook, Zachary Hare. Of course, Inch from Insanity on Twitter.
And I am at JWJ170104 on Twitter. And we thank you so much for listening to us. And we want to hear from you. We've got 5 left. So I'm just reading. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So awesome. So we have some more fun watching. I want to thank Zach again for being patient as my life went crazy. But we're back on track now, and so we will be knocking these out just as soon as we can. Yes.
Okay.
For now, though, we're going to remind you that we Murdochs get hit a lot, but we always get up. Thanks, everyone. Bye.